Hello everyone, and today we are going to make a platformer game in Unity. So to start off, we're going to do the usual, create a new project, and use the file path wherever you typically like to save it. I like to keep all my assets and everything in the same folder. That way I can keep everything in their own same spots. So just do whatever makes sense for you. So now, just going to wait for Unity open, and what we're going to do is create a game where the player has to jump from platform to platform, dodge obstacles on the way, and eventually reach some sort of goal. And I want the platforms to be able to move around along with the obstacles, and just make a reasonable yet difficult challenge. So to start, we're going to create our sprites, and as before, create a new GIMP file, choose its size, going with 128 by 128, always fill with transparency, and here's our file. Now use your pencil tool to create your sprites, and for this one I want to use a grid. I want a 16 by 16 pixel grid because that's how big I want the in-game tiles to be. And you go to View, Show Grid. Unfortunately, there's no hotkey for that. So now I want platforms. So my platform is just a big rectangle. My player, I want it to be a circular character. For the goal, I want it to be a flag. And then for obstacles, I want spikes that I can attach to the platforms, and some sort of red thing that can move around the level that you should not touch. So I'm just going to fill these sketches in with color off camera, so I'll be back in a sec. So these are the colors that I decided to go with. You have your player here, and you have your platforms, you have the goalpost, and you have the obstacles. Now, these aren't all the sprites that we're probably going to use, so I'd like to save the actual GIMP file itself. And this is because if I want to go back and add new game objects easily, I could do that. So now I'm going to export it in Unity. And now to bring in the assets. So as before, make it multiple because we have more than one sprites in this file, and make it however many pixels per unit to the scale you want. And then you can use automatic slicing and name the things. Come on. 0, platform, goal, spikes, obstacle. So now we have our different types of game objects. And now it's a matter of them doing what we want them to do. First thing I want to focus on is getting the player to move around how I want it to. So I want the player to be able to move left and right and to do a jump. So first I'm going to expand this platform, so the way I'm going to do that is go to this X value and just drag it, make it, or input whatever value. So now I have this big platform that I can use to test the player's movement. Let's lower it so it's at the bottom of the scene. There. And what I need to do is add a edge collider and move it. That way it's just at the top of it. You can also use a box collider. I'm using an edge collider just because it's a little more efficient. It doesn't matter now since we only have 2 objects in the scene, but if you have a much bigger scene and you have a lot of these platforms that are going to act as your ground surface, you want to use edge colliders. Anyway, for the player, I'm going to use a circular collider because it's circular, and going to add a rigid body. Now if I were to click play, it falls and that's it. So I just want to move this up a bit. And save my scene. So here we are. We have our player, we have our ground, but we don't have where is the real movement. So that's what I'm going to add in a new script. I'm going to name it player movement, player move, and I'll open it and begin coding for its movement. So as you may recall, the way we get objects to move is by modifying the velocity component in the rigid body. Yeah, we modify the velocity in the rigid body component. However, what we want to do is make it move left when we press the left arrow key, make it move right when we press the right arrow key, and make it jump when we press space. So the way we do that is modify different velocities. So our pseudocode would be as getting our key and then moving based on pressed. And the way we get key, we do if input dot get key, key code dot, and then whatever key that presses to do the action. And I'm going to copy this, paste it twice. And the reason why I'm using an else if is because I want there to be different actions based on what you press when it comes to the arrow keys. So if you're pressing one or the other, it will do whatever's here. And then if you're doing none of the presses, then it's going to stop your player from moving. And then the third action will not be using an else statement because we want this to happen regardless of whether or not you are pressing an arrow key. So this is going to be for our jumping, and this is going to be for our left and right movement. So the way we're going to move our player around the screen is going to be a bit complicated, and because of that, player movement will be the topic of the next video. So that basically wraps up what we're going to do for this. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you for the next one. Goodbye.